All right. Reggie Edwards, the front row report. I am joined today on Sunday by Lawrence from Styx. Man, thank you so much for taking time with me. I really do appreciate it, especially with it being a weekend. It's an honor to talk to you.
My pleasure. We're playing tonight anyway, so it doesn't matter what day of the week it is, really.
Yeah, you guys are out in California tonight, man. You guys are in the right state for it being January.
Yes, we kind of are. It's about 70 degrees outside. I'm sorry to report.
It's all good. It's snowing. It's snowing here, so it's awesome. Let me tell you, it's great. It's like 30 degrees, if that. So it's awesome, man. But yeah, you guys are going to be out here in Muncie the day before Valentine's Day, I believe, February 13th.
Yes, we are
playing in Muncie.
13th, yep.
Yeah. You guys are on the road a lot. You guys are real, like, true road warriors. I mean, in these days, you almost have to tour more than ever as a band. If you're going to make it compared to 10, 15, 20 years ago. That's
really it. I mean, you used to wear it as a badge of honor that if you were the road warriors, you took it as a great undertaking that you you had to bear. Now it's not like that at all. First of all, we travel extremely well, so I mean there's really no hardship in it. Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely right. The music industry has changed so dramatically over the last 12 years, a bit more than that actually. Over the last 15 years, there's been a huge transition, and we're aware of the fact that there's the one thing that you cannot download is a live rock performance, and we happen to put on a very strong one, and that's something that the band has always been great at, and they just decided that we've got to put the emphasis on that, and that's why we're touring over 100 shows a year, and I'm closing in on my 2000th show with the band at this point. So that's been the focus, and that's what's bringing people back around and keeps the insatiable demand to see Styx alive and well.
Yeah, and you mentioned downloading. Nowadays, I mean, even if bands do release new music on a regular basis every 2-3 years, they're not making as much money as they used to off of the music because of downloading now. Do you think that...
Nowhere close. Nowhere close to what it was, yeah.
Do you think that by not releasing new music on a regular basis with Styx, that you might make more by just touring?
Well, we do, but that doesn't change the fact that we want to make new music. That's a big part of the lifeblood of a band, and so I mean we've been, we've done a couple of albums together since I've been in the band, and we've also done two live DVDs and several live records and a couple of regeneration albums where we took the greatest hits and redid them with the current lineup, and we have a new DVD coming out. It'll actually be on Access TV in a couple of months from a show we did in Las Vegas last year. So we do have a lot of recording projects ongoing, and right now we are making we're working on a new record right now. Whether it comes out this year or not, that's hard to say. But we've always got new material in the pipeline that we're working on, and whether we release them one at a time, as we did with. There was a song we released called Difference in the World, and a song called Just Be. And, we've had one-offs that we'll put out, like either through our social media or something like that, or add it to a compilation record. We still have our foot in the recording camp. It's just that, we've got the rest of our body is in the touring mode, and we need to keep it there to keep the band alive and to keep the excitement going, because there's such a wealth of material for the band to play anyway that we're in it. We have to say that we're in a very good position in that there's such a ton of material that's available for us to play.
Now, the Vegas show you talked about, that was on the Soundtrack to Summer tour with Foreigner and Don Felder, right? How did that tour go? I know that was in the running for Tour of the Year for last year. How was that tour? Because, especially with Foreigner, you guys go way back.
We We do. We go way back, but the Foreigner have been through much of the similar transitions that Styx have had to go through, in order for these bands to survive the decades that they have at this point. They've had to make some critical decisions along the way. And Foreigner's a band that has done that and has thrived much as we have. And that tour was tremendous. I mean, I can see why it being, I don't know if the voting's all done yet, but I can see why it was up for the tour of the year, because it really was an overwhelming response from such a wide age range of audience. I mean, there were as many people under 30 years of age as over 30 at all those shows, and that just is an indication of just how wide a reach classic rock now has, and what an understood form of music it is now by several generations, and just how embraced it is, and how there just doesn't seem to be any ageism attached to it at all. It's a really, you hesitate to use the word respected, but that's what it is.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
you've got so many people, especially, classic rock bands. You got people like myself. I'm 27, but I was raised on classic rock. My mom raised me on Styx. She may be the biggest Styx fan I've ever met. And one of my first concerts was in Fort Madison, Iowa. It was Styx, REO Speedwagon, and a Little River Band. And so you got people like me who grew up on it and were raised on it. And then you've got people, in their in their 40s who that's their stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. It transcends generations. It really does.
Yeah. Well, I'm speaking to the exact case that I'm referring to with you, Reggie. It's people like yourself that really have extended the life of the band, because although we love, obviously we love playing for the diehard fans that were there for every incarnation of the band since 1972, I think, when the first album came out, until the present day. Those people, you've got to do everything you can to keep them happy and satisfied with the changes that have come along the way. But for people such as yourself, that's really invigorated the whole enterprise. The fact that it continues on is because it's reached new generations. Much in the same way, I would say that there were, in the jazz era, that would have produced swing bands, that would have produced Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, etc., and how eventually they found audiences that were much younger than they were. It didn't seem likely to us in the rock world that would be something that would be up the road, and yet it was. And it's an obviously great thing that we're taking advantage of, with people like yourself extending the life of the band and giving us the kick to want to keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I got to ask you, one of the most memorable shows and DVDs that you guys have released was when you did Pieces of Eight and The Grand Illusion from start to finish in their entirety. With how long ago those albums were released, I talked to Ricky about it a couple of years ago, and he even said that there's certain songs on those records that the band hasn't played since the records came out, and they had to relearn to do those tours and those shows.
Absolutely. In fact, there were some of the songs they had never played live. Right. Some of the songs from those two albums, they'd never played them live. And there's two albums that were made, before you were born. So, you're playing very, what to you is like predates your
my existence,
debut on the planet. Your existence on the planet. So and for the band to put them together and to play them in their exact running order that were on there, that was, I think that's my proudest thing with the band so far, is that we were able to do that and to play a full tour of it and make it work and stick to just those two albums. And and do it in the correct running order, and be able to have a visual component that tied it all together, and to give people some sort of semblance of the experience of what listening to an album meant to people back then. You know, it was a different era where you got your music in a completely different way than today. You were the only way that you could do your own programming, so to speak, was to go out and buy an album and go home and go through the ritual of checking out the artwork and putting the thing on and then flipping it over after 20 minutes. And it's just not like that today unless people choose that experience.
Now, what was that tour like for you? Because obviously you weren't in the band when those albums released, and so I imagine there's a lot of songs along with the band you had to learn how to play completely.
I did, yeah, I did. Not only that, but being the keyboard player, there's a lot of programming involved, and then once you get the programming done, there's a lot of logistical, practical application that has to come into place to actually make it go from one song to the next seamlessly, and not disrupt the flow of the show. So I had both the musical mountain to climb of learning the material, but then also the technical mountain of being able to make sure that seamlessly the technology didn't get in the way of what we were trying to pull off. And luckily, this is where the digital age does come to some aid, because you're able to, once you can lock something in, you can digitally restore it and store it and have it be called up immediately. It still doesn't change the fact that it's a bit of a slog to get to there at that point.
Right, exactly. Now, one thing I would love to know, I mean, you came into the band, I think it was 99, the end of the 90s.
I'm in year 16. Yeah.
Right. It was a very interesting time for the band, obviously. Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like for you coming into Styx and joining the band at that point in their career? And what it was like for you?
Sure. Well, I can say for myself, it was a monumental transition. Mm-hmm. It really was for both of us, because for myself, I'd had a 14-year solo career, and I'd done 6 albums, and I'd just released my greatest hits album in Canada, and I'd never had a release in the United States, and that was a frustration for me, because I had gold and multi-platinum records in Canada, and it was the way, you know, the way the music industry was back then. Although I was signed to Columbia Records, Sony, they divided up the world, and they didn't necessarily, just because you were successful in one market, that didn't mean they were going to release you in another, even though that market happened to be right next door. And it was a real frustration for me. But when Styx would come to Canada, they would hear my stuff on the radio, and eventually I opened a show for them in what in 1997 was the New Montreal Forum, which is like the equivalent of the United Center in Chicago.
Okay.
You know? Yeah, so it was the new hockey rink where the Montreal Canadiens play.
Oh, nice.
So I opened the show for them, and they got to see me in front of an audience of about 17 or 18,000 people, and they were all singing my songs because they know them well there. And they took note of that fact, and so that I was kind of in their heads then.
Okay.
And when they decided to go through, their own backstage drama played out in early 1999, and they realized they needed another piano player, I came to mind, and so it was. I remember that they were. As Tommy said, even on Behind the Music, they were kind of nervous about things because it was a big move, a big step for them at the time, and it was a big step for me too, because I was a solo artist and I didn't know if can I actually become a member of a band, become a band member, and responsible for my own little corner of the stage and not the full thing as I'd been as a solo artist. So. The great thing is this: when I first joined, it's funny, when I went to Tommy's house and Jay Wyatt and Todd were there, and their manager, and I was all set to play. I'd learned about 3 songs: Grand Illusion and Lady, and Then It Come Sail Away. But before I even played one, I was about to play. Actually, I think I was about to play Crystal Ball. Funny enough, now that I think about it. Tommy stopped me and he said, no, don't play a Styx song. Play that last song that you did at your show. It was a song of my own called "A Criminal Mind." And so I played "A Criminal Mind," and by the end of the song, he goes, "Okay, we got to make that a Styx song." And so we've done that on a couple of live records so far. But that was I think that was the pivotal moment where I felt like, well, they kind of just want me to come into the band as myself and not. They're not looking for someone to replicate or to try to imitate, I should say, what they've done in the past, but they basically have decided to move ahead with somebody new. So that's always a daunting thing. So but we, a couple months later, we were on stage in front of an audience for the first time in, I can tell you where it was too, it was Branson, Missouri. Nice. And after about the second song in, which was Grand Illusion, it was all high fives and everyone was happy, and it's been that way ever since.
Nice. Well, I mean, you bring a completely different element to the live show, and it's so much fun to watch because you're one of the most energetic and all over the stage keyboard players I've seen live, and I've seen you twice. And it's just so much fun to watch. I just love it because you don't just stay at the keyboard. You leave the keyboard. You're front stage, side stage. You're everywhere, and it's amazing.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it. I'll tell you where that began. I mean, I was always a very kind of hyperactive, I guess. Performer on stage. I was always part of it, but the spinning keyboard came in 1990. I did an album, a solo album called Lost Brotherhood, and the guitarist on that album was Alex Lifeson from Rush.
Nice.
And because I was under the same management as Rush, and so Alex in the video for this song Lost Brotherhood, you can YouTube it if you want. This is a song called Lost Brotherhood, and Alex steps out of this barn. The whole thing was done in a barn, and it is, 80s type video, where we had all this kind of alluding to a gang style, gang life, and so. Anyway, when Alex steps out of the barn, we had this great moment where he's going to play this solo, and I thought, when I was looking at the storyboard for that video, I just thought, and I'm stuck behind the boring piano. I'm going to look like the boring guy. So we came up with this idea of having the piano spin. So we made this stainless steel stand and had the thing spinning, 360 degrees. But by the time we finished the video, I was looking at the footage. I just thought, I think I want to try this thing on stage. I want to see what happens if I take this on stage. And of course, for the first couple of weeks up on stage, I nearly killed myself on it, because jumping up on top of it and forgetting that the thing's actually rotating and turning around, whacked me in the head.
Oh man!
But I finally got it under control, so to speak, and it's been part of the act ever since. And when I joined Styx, it's funny because I didn't think I would use it, but we were in our first rehearsal and we went, "Hey, where's the spinning keyboard?" I said, "Well, I have it with me, but I didn't know if you guys wanted to use it." They said, "Yeah, let's make it part of the show." So that was it.
Nice. Yeah, it's so much fun to watch. I absolutely love it. Absolutely. You said that you guys are working on some new music, and I have to ask, how is it coming along? And I mean, how does it match up with some of the classics that we've heard from Styx?
Yeah, this is always part of the challenge is to because we love new stuff that's around. There's all kinds of bands that we love and that we you can't help but be influenced by. But it's funny, whenever we're working on a new piece, there comes a point while we're working on it where we say, does this sound like Styx?
Right.
Does this feel like it fits into the lexicon of what Styx have done? And we found that whenever we stay within those lines, we tend to have songs that will get played more and people will be more accepting of. So a good example of that would be in 2004 we did an album called Cyclorama, or 2003, sorry, the year after that was Big Bang Theory. So and from Cyclorama, I think the song that sounded most like Styx, most like the classic Styx, was a song called One With Everything. Mm-hmm. And that's why that song continues to be played. It fits the mold
Right.
And we actually wound up, that was the name of, we ended up calling the Styx Live with the Contemporary Youth Orchestra. We called that album One With Everything, because it really fit. So those are the parameters that we give ourselves when we're working on new things. And if they don't fit the Styx, mold, so to speak, then we don't bother releasing it. We just move on and go and play another 100 shows.
Well, that's the best way to do it. I mean, and like you said, it's touring as much as you do. It's got to be tough to find time to sit down and record, and get in the studio or record a massive amount of material, because you have to find that balance between touring and recording, and that can be tough to do.
And it's a different balance now than it ever used to be. But yeah, I mean, tomorrow I'll go in. We have a day off tomorrow. I'll go into the studio and we'll hack away at something new again, and we'll see if it rises to the passes all the tests of being a Styx piece, and eventually it'll emerge. But we're always attempting that, even if we just have one day off. We're attempting it, but we just we don't have to put an undue amount of pressure on ourselves to consistently release new stuff, because, as I said, there's so much to play from the history of the band, and it's important that we hold that up first and foremost.